It's not often that I find myself wondering, how do I go about making the perfect batch of blood? But today was just such a day. So I started by doing a little research and finding a few different recipes for fake blood. And then I started experimenting, trying my own different variations and versions. And today I'm going to show you what I came up with. But what I really want you to do is see if you can make it even better. See if you can improve on my recipe. And just to give you an idea, this one that we're going to see today is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's my 6th or 7th variation that I tried. And if you're going to do experimenting, remember, write it all down. Otherwise you won't remember what you did the last time or the time before or the time before. And make some notes. Was it too opaque? Was it too yellow? Was it too runny? Was it too thick? All those kind of things are very useful. Right, so what was the recipe that I ended up on? It's actually pretty simple and you don't need too much. You need some water, some chocolate sauce, like ice cream sauce, some blue food color and some red food color. Okay, starting off, we need a tablespoon of water and a tablespoon of chocolate syrup. Now I know what you're thinking, why is chocolate syrup going into fake blood? It is not very red, and you're quite right there, it isn't. But what it does is it makes your fake blood a little bit opaque or not see-through. So I'm going to give that a mix around in there. And that's because blood has lots of things in it and it isn't actually see-through. It isn't brown either, but don't worry, we're going to get rid of that color very shortly. So let's give that a good mix around in there. So this is kind of a test batch. You can scale this up, of course, if you like to. All right, there we go. And you'll see the chocolate syrup also increases the viscosity of the blood, which is great. All right, doesn't look like blood yet, but don't fear. Next, we're going to add the color. Blood, as you probably know, is fairly red, and that's because of something called red blood cells that are all through your blood. They help to carry the oxygen. To this, I'm going to add 15 drops of red food color. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, don't want to lose count. 10. The exact amount of red food color that you use might depend on your brand, just like the chocolate syrup. They could all be a little different. I need 5 more, don't I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent. Let's mix that through and you'll see it's starting to look a little bit more like fake blood. Ooh. Now blood actually comes in different shades, which you may or may not have noticed. Sometimes it's bright red, a little bit like it is at the moment, and sometimes it's a duller, darker red color, and that really just depends on how much oxygen it's carrying. So it's bright red like this when it's full of oxygen, and it's more of a dark red color when it loses the oxygen or when it's in scabs. So it probably doesn't look quite realistic at the moment. It's a bit too bright, I think. And I find just the tiniest bit of blue, 1 drop or even half a drop if you can manage it, just sends it that little bit darker and makes it that little bit more like the blood that might be oozing out of a wound, for example. Whoa, look at that. That is looking pretty good. Oh yes, wonderful. So there's lots of things going on with your fake blood that you'll want to try and replicate. And it's not just the color, but I mentioned the viscosity. Blood is thicker than water, it's not thin and running. But there's more in blood than just red blood cells. I mentioned them, of course. There's something called plasma. And plasma basically makes the blood all sort of watery. There's also things called white blood cells. They're very good at attacking bacteria and invaders. And things called platelets. They help your blood to clot. Now, I did try and scale this recipe up, and when I scaled it up, well, it worked all right. I think it looks a little bit different than this version, and I'm not sure exactly why that is. There's also lots of other ingredients I found that people like to use when they make their fake blood, and you could try them as well. Golden syrup was something I found in quite a few recipes. Corn flour I found, and of course there's different types of food coloring. So you might actually find different ones come out in different ways, and that's completely up to you. But of course, you don't just need fake blood to make a fake wound. We've also got to come up with our skin and our scabs and our bruises. So let's get all onto them. But remember, when you're experimenting, there are a few things you've got to remember. Write it down. That's number 1, so remember what you've done. Also, I've got a bit of a mat down here, and that's essential because food color is really good at staining stuff. So have something down, keep your place clean, and get making some fake blood.